Hello, everybody. Uh, Thank you for being here watching this video conference. My name is Luis Aristizabal. I work as an independent consultant for the Synergy Hawaii Agricultural Council, and also I am a current student at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. The topic that we are talking today is related with the results that we get from some field trials for controlling the coffee leaf rot infection by the use of the fungicides in a commercial coffee farm in Hawaii. First of all, I want to give my acknowledgement to all of these people. I want to thank Matthew and Andrea for the invitation, and a special thanks to all coffee growers that allowed us to do field trials in their coffee fields. Also, I want to thank all the people from USP Bar, Melissa, Tracy, Elisa, and all their technicians for their collaboration. And finally, I want to thank Susan from the Synergy Hawaii Agricultural Council for funding, and also the Department of Plant and Environmental Protection Science at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. So in this speed, I want to talk a little bit about background of the coffee leaf rots, and then the result that we have found related with the first survey of the CLR conducted during 2021. But the focus of this speed is more to see the effect of the preventive translaminar systemic fungicides against the CLR. We had conducted two trials, one during 2022, the second during 2023 seasons, and all of them were conducted in commercial coffee farm here in Hawaii. Then I will talk a little bit about one case study, and finally show one example of how could be one rotation program for controlling CLR. So let's go to start. As a background, I just bring this slide and show the first report of the CLR, the fungus Emileia bastrati, that was reported in Maui in October 2020. And this had a lot of implications. The first implication is the coffee leaf rot is the most devastating pathogenic fungus affecting coffee crops worldwide. So it's no question about that. It's a very serious disease. And the second one, CLR is a real threat that could destroy Hawaii coffee industry if measures are not taken. So we had to do a lot of effort to control this disease in order to survive as a coffee growers. And finally, we do know absolutely nothing about CLR epidemic, biology, infection patterns, alternative of control under Hawaii coffee agroecosystem. I want to be clear, under Hawaii coffee agroecosystem. There is a lot of information coming from many other coffee producer countries like Brazil, Colombia, Costa Rica, and countries in Africa and India as well. But the condition could be different. So this is why I say right now we are in the process of learning. Anything that we can learn, any result that we can get it is going to help us to improve this knowledge, and is going to help us to develop one IPM program for coffee leaf rot in Hawaii. So the coffee leaf rot is a pathogenic fungus. The name is Emileia bastratis. Is one airborne pathogen. That means is dispersal by the wind and plus other dispersal factors. Is one obligate pathogenic fungus. That means it had to attack and live in one living organism. In this case, is the host is the plant from the genus Coffea. And the problem with the coffee leaf rust is like this fungus affect the leaves, and after the leaves had get the infection, there is a multiplication in the area of the leaves until increase the infection and severity, and then there is a drop at the foliation all of these leaves, and this is going to reduce the photosynthesis of the coffee plant, and the big consequence is like it's going to affect and reduce the quantity and quality of the coffee production. This is why CLR is really relevant, because it produces economic damage if measures are not conducted. This is how they look at the end of the one of the season in December in one of the coffee farms here in Hawaii. So it's a lot of foliation from this coffee plantation. I don't expect nothing from the next season. Uh, this is part of the background as well. Here I want to show you results that we had get it related with the monitoring of coffee leaf rust conducted in Hawaii. This work was in collaboration with Melissa Johnson from the US. And the early 2021 January, we were concerned about how we can support coffee growers when dealing this real problem. So we decided to start a survey plan to see if the CLR was present, yes or no, in several coffee fields in Kona specifically. So we try to assist coffee growers in the early detection of the CLR, plus give some kind of recommendation coming from the literature that we had read from different other coffee producer other coffee producer countries. So overall, we standardize one sample plan. So we are collecting, we are selecting 25 coffee trees and counting the total number of the leaves in two branches, one in the median, other in the bottom of the coffee trees, and see how many coffee leaves are positive for the CLR infection. So we determine the coffee leaf infection or incidence, also severity, and finally we get one idea about the foliation. So results from this first survey are very clear here. In this graphic, we can see that during the first part of the year 2021, the CLR infection was relatively low, average about 4%. But during the second semester, that is the moment that we enter in harvest season, we see a huge increase of the CLR, average about 36% in the coffee field that we were sampled, about 30 different coffee fields. And this is a good example how is the development of one epidemic. So the CLR start relatively low, is making multiplication and dispersal, and the increase is relatively low. But at this period of time, you see one exponential growing. That is the results of many things. There is more spores of the fungus in the environment. The coffee leaves, the coffee plant enter in feed the berries, so the coffee leaves they are more susceptible to the attack. And also we enter to attend the harvest season, so we as a coffee pickers we are going to disperse the disease as well. So this is what happened during 2021. But also in the second graphic, we see the number of the coffee leaves average that we get in a branch. And was very clear that at the end of the year was a reduction of the leaves, and this show one impact in the coffee production during 2022. So the observation is like many coffee fields in Kona reduced the coffee production between 25 to 75% in comparison with previous year. And this is why CLR is really, really problematic because affect the coffee production. And here you see a couple examples. One coffee farm that for whatever reason the farmer didn't take wasn't proactive doing the activities normally agronomic practice, and the application of the fungicides was maybe not efficient. And this is the results. So what you expecting from this coffee plantation for the next season? I don't expecting absolutely nothing. But in the another side, you see one coffee plantation that the farmer is proactive and is doing the standard agronomic practice, like include controlling the weeds, apply fertilizer, standard pruning, and also application of the fungicides, including preventive and the translaminar systemic fungicides. So the major topic right now is focused in this, made the evaluation of the what was the effect of the preventive and translaminar systemic fungicides on CLR infection. So we had two goals. One is to measure this impact or this effect of those fungicides, and second one to estimate the maximum time of protection, number of the weeds that after the spray coffee trees could be protected. So we want to see how many weeds. So the methodology from this field study was as following. So we select several coffee farms from Kona, Kau, and Hilo, and we told directly with coffee growers, and was directly participation of them in selection of the field, and participation, collaboration with the initial evaluation of the CLR infection, plus also the application of the products. So it was a very good work directly with coffee grower and field workers. So we select coffee fields in every single coffee farm between 1 to 2 acres area. And inside those fields, we select some small plots between 100 until 200 coffee trees. And every plot was one specific treatment. That means one specific fungicide was used or applied in those specific plots. And those areas are more realistic, more close to the reality that a coffee grower had, that is normally big areas. And we use for the application a backpack sprayer mist blower. And we did 2 consecutive sprays of a single fungicide at 5 weeks interval. And we repeat this field study during 2 seasons, 2022 and 2023. As I mentioned before, so we get the participation of the producers and coffee growers and field workers. And here you can see the different products that we use. We get 2 products based in Bacillus, Sereneda, Dumbarnickel. We had 2 products based in copper, Kotsai and Budget. We test also Prolam Verde, and we test the translaminar systemic Priazor. Those are the doses recommended by the label, and this is what we did is monitoring the infection every couple weeks in those fields before and after the application, and we keep doing over several weeks. So let's go to see the results. Here we get 2 coffee farms both of them in Kona, and you see very clear that every column had one specific fungicide. We get the red column is budget, the yellow is Kotsai, the green is Serenet, and the blue is Probla. In this specific field trials, we did two sprays at the beginning and then 5 weeks later. So what we had here in the first graphic is one coffee farm that the CLR infection start with relative low infection, lower than 3%. So we apply all the products, and during the second spray, still the CLR infection was relatively low. And after that, we get a additional evaluation, and we can see here that all products they get some kind of control, and several weeks later we see like the increase of the CLR infection, but the product budget was in this case the best, and we are expecting one increase of the disease over many weeks after the spray. And in the second graphic, we had a coffee farm that the infection was a little high, between 5-10%. And we did exactly the same. We applied the first time, and we noticed that most of the products they were higher than the threshold, that is 5%. That is the goal, is try to keep the CLR equal or lower than 5% infection. And after the second spray, we see that the most of the products they get some kind of control, copper and followed by Serenet. Prolat showed difference, showing higher infection, and after 10 weeks after the second spray, we noticed that copper products they showed relative good control, but Serenet and Prolat they increase the infection, and of course later over time we see increase in all of them. So we can say that when the CLR infection start relatively low, most of the products they get some kind of control, but we need to keep doing additional sprays. But when the CLR is relatively high, between 5 to 10, we notice that the copper based product they work most better. So here we had the summary. In this case, it's from the three different coffee farms, and it's almost the same the result that we see. But I want to make emphasis that after the second spray, that was week number 5, we get here 5 weeks later, 10 weeks later, we see it. Yellow is Kotsai and red one is budget. We see copper products, they show the best protection in comparison with Serenet and with Prolat over the period of time. Now, during 2023 coffee season, we had include additional products. So again, we work with two copper products, Kotsai and Budget, but also we work with Bacillus. We add double nickel, so we work with Serenet and double nickel as a fungicides based in Bacillus, and we include also Priazor. And here we had Priazor A and Priazor B. What is the difference? Priazor A is only one spray at the beginning of the trial, and Priazor B is try to follow the recommendation of the manufacturer that they say that you need to apply the product, and in about 30 days you can do the second application, but had to be one different product applied between them. So this is that we did in Priazor B 3 sprays, one of Priazor, then we apply about 3 or 4 weeks later budget, and then about 3 or 4 weeks later Priazor again. That means 2 times. And also we had the Prolat Verde. So the results here are very clear. In one coffee farm that overall most of the treatment start relatively high, we see that the Priazor A and B, they push the CLR infection down, and they keep down over 12 weeks of this specific trial. And following the Priazor A and B, we see the copper products, they work very well, try to keep almost in the same level of infection. And we see a reduction of the CLR by the Bacillus products, even Prolat. But after the second spray, we don't see too much reduction in this specific case. Now, in another coffee farm located in Kau as well, the infection was relatively low. But we see here the tendency was a little different. We see one increase almost in all of them, was very low in the fields with Priazor A and B, followed by copper products, and then the Bacillus products and Prola. In this coffee farm, we noticed that more pressure of the CLR coming from the environment was affecting the field, and this is why we see the increase. So we can say here that overall the products are working, but it's very clear that the Priazor translaminar systemic is getting the best result and followed by copper-based products in comparison with the Bacillus and Prola. Now we had another couple coffee farms. One is in Kona, the another is in Hilo. And the tendency in this coffee farm from Kona is relatively similar. We see best control, again, Priazor A and B, and followed by copper products. And in this coffee farm that was conducted is located in Hilo, we noticed it again that Priazor A and B get very good results. We feel very confident with the use of them. And we noticed that for whatever reason, the copper-based products, they didn't work as was expected. So now, what is the condition in this coffee farm located in Hilo? We know that Hilo had more rainfall, more frequently rainfall in comparison with Kona and even Kau. And it could be one of the reasons after frequent rainfalls, watch the residual of the products, the fungicides on the leaves, and this is why we find the result. But the Bacillus products, serenade and double nickel, in this specific case work much better than copper. That means this condition is more positive for the Bacillus than copper-based products. So now when we put here is 5 coffee farms together, the general average, we see that all of the products try to, after the spray, try to push the CLR relatively low in comparison with the initial evaluation. But again, Priazor A and B, which is the blue, and this one with green lines, they push over all the field trial, the CLR very low. So I don't see difference between Priazor A and B for the control of the CLR, but from the economic point of view, Priazor A, that is only one spray, is more beneficial for coffee growers than the Priazor B, that includes 2 Priazor plus 1 additional product that in this case was budget. Also, we noticed that copper-based products, that is the Kotsai green and budget yellow, after the second spray, we see in this second trial they get very good control until 7 weeks. And serenade and double nickel, I can say they don't control, but they get some kind of control, but not as good as the copper-based products. And now I want to talk about this. Is a case study. This is a publication that is expected to be published in the next couple weeks or before. And here, I want to know what's happened during two seasons, 2021 and 2022, in three coffee farms specifically for Kona. So the question was, what happened in all of these coffee farms related with the CLR infection? Why we see too much difference between them, knowing that in all of three coffee farms, coffee growers had conducted the standard agronomic practice control of the weeds. They had a plan of fertilizer, standard pruning, and also application of the preventive fungicides, and also application of the systemic translaminar systemic fungicide. So why we see too much difference? So this was the question, and here you can see the results. So we had a far one red one line, far two green line, and far three blue line. And in the top you see the CLR infection, and in the bottom you see the number of the leaves in average per branch. And you see here, starting during 2021, early first semester, very low infection, but then you see the peak of the increase of the CLR infection higher than 70%. And then go down over the time, the next season, but also increase again at the end of the second season, 2022, for coffee farm number one. We see the same tendency in FAR 2 and 3, but the infection didn't reach too high. And then we see the tendency to go down and then go up at the end of the season. This is like the pattern that we are noticing is happening in Hawaii, in Kona, with the CLR infection, that it reached higher infection at the end of the during harvest season, and most at the end of the harvest season in both cases. When you see here the number of the leaves, you see a huge reduction specific for the coffee farm one after the peak. That is the result of the high infection, high severity, and the consequent defoliation of the leaves. And we noticed some kind of defoliation in coffee farm 1 and 2, but not very higher in comparison with farm. And we noticed it again, a reduction in defoliation at the end of the during the second semester for the 2022 season. A statistical analysis showed difference among coffee farm related with CLR infection, plus a statistical difference as well from the number of the leads. Now, let's go to see what happened with the general average. We put here both season, all the evaluation for every single coffee farm, and we get coffee farm 1 at 26% in comparison with C's, and 2.5% average. And again, we find difference in the means. And what is the impact of this high infection? Then the second graphic shows the reduction of the number of the leaves average that we get in a branch, and we see a huge reduction in coffee farm number 1, some kind of reduction in number coffee farm number 2, and less reduction in number coffee farm number 3. Overall, the number of the leaves in a coffee branch had to be around 20. This is like the standard of 18, 20, something like that. But the real impact of this high infection and reduction of the leaves is measured in how was the coffee production. And in order to make this a little more clear, because they had different densities, I decided to show this one according with the number of trees and get the average of how was the coffee production average per tree. And we find coffee farm one both seasons, 5 pounds average in comparison with 8 and in comparison with 10. And I think this is why when we see this high infection, then we get a reduction of the foliage, and finally we get a reduction of coffee production. Now, we want to see why we see all of this kind of difference, and here is part of the answer. So we get in the same coffee farm during 2021, we see that all coffee farm apply several spray of the products. 6 spray here, 10 and 10. All of them apply preventive products. It could be products based in copper or based in bacillus, also oxide 2. And the use of the translaminar systemic during 2021 was applied only in coffee farm 3, but no in the others. And the months in which this product was applied was in June, I think late June. And at the end of the season, we see that this coffee farm finished with 6% infection in comparison with 21 and 77 infection in coffee farm number 1. Now, what happened during the second season? We see again all of them applied several times, but a little less in comparison with previous year. All of them applied preventive, and all of them apply translaminar systemic. Now, what is the interesting here is when the systemic was applied. In coffee farm number 1, it was applied early December, and it was too late because already damage was done and the infection finished with 43%. In coffee farm 2, they apply early in the year, that is good, February. Remember, this coffee farm finished around 20, so this application pushed down the infection. And again, they repeat in December, that it was relatively late, but the infection was very higher in comparison with 1. And finally, the coffee farm number 3, they applied the translaminar systemic 2 times during the first semester. One was in March and the second was early July. And this is important because we know that we had the restriction about 45 days before harvest, and normally the harvest season starts late August or early September in most coffee farm in Kona. We had the opportunity to apply the second spray of Priazor during June or early July. And this is going to make a huge difference because then we enter to harvest season with relative low infection. Also, we had to apply between August to December, unless a couple times any other of the preventive products like copper or bacillus to try to help us to keep the CLR relatively low. And also, we made calculation about how much was the cost for control the CLR. We made this one based in coffee production and the number of the pounds of cherry that is needed to cover the cost from control the disease. This control was based in produce, labor, and plus monitoring. And the monitoring was about $25 for every single sample. So overall, we find that the cost was between 9 to 11, and relative low during the second season for coffee farm 2 and 3, but was very high for coffee farm number one because the coffee production in this coffee farm got down 45% in comparison with previous year. That means was a coffee production was lost in this case, and this has had a lot of impact from the economic point of view. So here, I just want to bring this slide that is a part of the survey that we are conducting in collaboration with Melissa. Here we had about 24 coffee farms, and I just want to mention that during 2022, coffee farm that only apply the preventive products, they remember they finished with high infection in December 2021, start higher during 2022, and then go down, but finish relatively high as well. And coffee farms, then they use the systemic, they start relatively high during 2022 because not everybody during 2021 applied the systemic, but we finish normally lower than 10% between between 5-10%. And we see almost the same patterns during 2023, the same coffee farms. But the positive thing is like we see here, we finish in around 40% during 2022. In 2023, the same coffee farm finished about 20. That is some kind of progress in control the disease. But it's very clear that the use of the translaminar systemic is making a lot difference in the control of the disease. And you see here the example how the coffee plantation they look at the end of the year. And this is finally, this is a rotation program by use different fungicides. And here we had a season 2022, season 2023. The first this year, 7 sprays were conducted, and the second 2023 only 6 sprays. Now let's go to see when the product were applied. So we had the arrows show different fungicides. Blue is Kotsai, green is Serenet, and brown is Budget, and red one is Priazor. So here I want to show you that with the threshold that we put is about 5% in order to minimize any potential of coffee production. 5% is like the threshold that we have. Is the threshold that after you reach this, we recommend apply the systemic product. So it was applied here, and you see push down the infection, but also we apply the Serenet 2 months later, and the CLR start to increase. We apply again copper product, go down a little bit, and then push the second spray of Priazor early July and push down the infection during harvest season. But also we did some sprays in the second semester to help to reduce the CLR as much as possible to finish a harvest season with relative low. And here we see there is increase, but not too high. Again, we apply for the next season the Priazor here, push down, 1 copper application, second Priazor here, and push down, and we finish with lower than 5% at the end 2023. And this is how they look, the coffee plants at the end of the season. You don't see really reduction in coffee production. And I think here we can discuss a little bit the conclusions. So we can say that after applying fungicides, the protection against the CLR lasts between 4 to 12 weeks. So this is that we got, but it depends what is the product that we apply. It depends what is the initial infection, and also it depends on the weather condition. And between uh, we can say that if the application was conducted properly, we can get this kind of results. So it's important to say that as well. So starting with relative low infection, all fungicides provide protection because this is the way that they work. And however, starting with high infection, between 10 to 20% infection, copper-based fungicides were more effective than bacillus fungicides and Prolar Verde. Now, the big conclusion that we had here is like the fungicide with the longest lasting protection was 12 weeks. 12 weeks protection was Priazor, translaminar systemic. 12 weeks protection. That is good. And we know copper-based fungicides can get protection between 6 to 8 weeks protection. So we feel comfortable so that we can do application every 6 weeks or every 8 weeks. And this get like some kind of the relief from the economic point of view, and also knowing that we don't have too much, we had limitation of people here and the cost of the labor is high. So if we can reduce the number of the sprays as much we can, could be great. And also I can say bacillus based products, they can give protection, but it's about 4 weeks. That is according to what the label say. Prolab Verde was the less effective fungicides that we had tested against CLR. So thank you so much for your attention. If you had question, please, you can reach me to my email. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.